Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com with our post-game analysis wrap-up of the Florida Atlantic game. And Army came into super hot and humid Boca Raton and left with their first conference victory and in their first game in the new American Athletic Conference for them, with an impressive, relatively dominant performance over Florida Atlantic with a 24-7 win. Really, really good performance across the board. Turnover battle. I mentioned they needed the win. They did fumble once, and it almost cost them at the end of the first half. Ended up being about a 14 to 17 point swing. They or 10 to 14 point swing rather. They would have gone in and at least kicked the field goal, if not scored a touchdown. But then Florida Atlantic came in and stuck one in right before the half to make it 14-7 and make it more of a game than it probably needed to be. And then in the second half, Max DiDomenico got a big pick in the red zone, which turned, or it wasn't really in the red zone, but it was on the 4 yard line, turned FAU over and allowed the Army offense to go on a march, which ended up eating up some time of possession. So if we look at the keys to the game again, turnover battle ended up 1-1. I did think Army forced a fumble late. That was the runner was called down. Hard to say from the press box, but it looked like a fumble up here. Anyway, let's see. Total yards, Army 449 to 235. So they almost doubled up FAU. I said they had to run for 300 yards. They ran for 405 yards. And Coach Woody's key stopped the run. Florida Atlantic ran for an abysmal 42 yards total rushing. Army ended up, going 1 for 4 passing, just hit the long touchdown pass to Casey Reynolds in the second quarter, which was a great catch by Casey Reynolds. It looked like Bryson didn't quite get enough air under the ball, but Casey caught up to it, ran in for a touchdown, which was outstanding. As far as the running game goes and superstars for Army, Noah Short had the game of games, best game of his career, 160 yards rushing. Third option was open all day long. Rocket toss was open. Some really good blocks on the perimeter helped spring Noah. Bryson Daly had a great game, 117 yards. It was just classic triple option football. When Florida Atlantic, after the first couple drives, did a really nice job adjusting and shutting down the pitch and the outside run. Cody Worley adjusted and came back with more quarterback power, midline option. Kanye Udo at fullback had another 70-yard game. Hayden Reed had a nice game running the ball a few times. So all in all, pretty successful outing for Army. Really big statement game for them for their first game in the American Athletic Conference. So ended up, it was 14-7 at halftime. First drive of the second half came down, kicked the field goal, made it 17-7, got the interception, came back down, and Florida Atlantic looked like they were going to hold them to another field goal. And then Coach Munkin calls a fake field goal, and holder Matthew Rhodes rubs it in on an option play from 23 yards out to make the game 24-7. Overall analysis, Army's offensive line played great again. The running back stable last week, Kanye Udo was the big star. This week it was Noah Short. I'm telling you, this group of running backs at Army is one of the best group of running backs they've had, and they are going to be extremely dangerous going forward in the American Athletic Conference with that group of running backs and the offensive line. If they can just stay healthy, their offensive line is doing an amazing job moving people. And so and of course, Bryson just does a great job commanding the offense, takes care of the football, runs with power, runs with speed when he has to, and his passing game is what it is, but he hit Casey on that big touchdown, so that was great. And going defensively, when you look at what they were able to do defensively today, Coach Munkin last week talked about bend but don't break, but said they bent a little more than he would have liked to have against Lehigh. Well, today they really did a nice job most of the day shutting down Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic did have a couple nice drives, but Army, finished one with an almost interception in the end zone. Another one, they intercepted the ball at the 4 yard line. Another one when Florida Atlantic looked like they were going to score in the fourth quarter to make it somewhat of a ball game. They would have been down 24-14 with about 10 minutes left. Army came up with 4 stops in a row from the 2 yard line. As I always say, Nate Woody's defense is toughest at the 1 yard line. When teams get to Army's 1, they got them right where they want them. So that has almost become a culture thing for the Army defense. As far as the heat goes, I was on the field a little bit, y'all, it was probably the hottest football game I've ever been at. It was, and I mean, I live in Georgia, so I'm used to heat, but it was sunny. It was brutal. It was in the 90s. And Florida Atlantic went with the whites at home, so Army came out in the all blacks. And like Coach Munkin says, these guys are out at Camp Buckner in the summer, sleeping in 45-degree cold and 98-degree heat during the day. And so the elements don't really affect Army kids. They truly are last of the hard, and they proved that moniker today that they were last of the hard because it was spicy out there for sure. Next they get a bye, which is great. They get to rest, and then the following week they have Rice at home, and then they go to Temple on a Thursday night on the road. So, Rice and Temple are no world beaters. They could easily be 4-0 at the end of September. Bye week. If anybody's hurt, they should be able to get healthy. Didn't see any major injuries, but you never know. Really good game all around by a lot of guys. I mentioned the O-line. I mentioned Short. I mentioned Kanye minus the fumble. Hayden Reed had another nice game. Bryson had a great game. Casey Reynolds had a nice touchdown catch. Defensively, Casey Larkin played well. Max DiDomenico had the pick. And the defense just stepped up big time. Jaden Mays had a nice stop. Chance Keith had a couple big plays. So defense really came to play today. A lot of the concerns about the Army defense, I think, have been alleviated. We'll have to see as the season goes along, but so far so good. And if this offense can keep doing what they're doing, that's let's see, what did I say? 405 yards today, 375 last week. That's 780 yards rushing in 2 weeks. If they can keep from turning the ball over, they are going to be extremely difficult to stop. And trying to prepare for this offense in 1 week, good luck, rest of the ACC. That's all I got to tell you. So great game by everybody. I thought, once again, Cody Worley called a great game offensively. I think he's a really good offensive coordinator and is going to do a really nice job here as the season goes along. So, again, Joe Iacono with the Army win today, 24-7 here at Florida Atlantic. And like I said, next week's a bye week. So signing off from FAU Stadium, go Army, beat Navy.